I really do love playing Persona 5, the video game. It has decent enough combat. It's your typical JRPG combat that you see in almost JRPG ever. The soundtrack is amazing. The characters are really fun to interact with. The story is great. And overall, just the aesthetics and the design and the art style for the game is just overall fantastic. I can't really say anything bad about it besides how time consuming that it can be. Now, whether it is to a certain mechanic that's inside of the game, or if it's just because JRPGs take a lot of my time regardless, but that's really the only negative that I see, that I see about it is that it consumes a lot of my time, no matter how I play the game. But I can't really say anything good about the animation over the course of the last couple months. So let's talk about it.
Now, drop that.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another new video. Today we're going to be talking about Persona 5, but in this specific Persona 5 video we're actually going to be doing something different. Normally when I talk about Persona 5 it's about a specific episode and me watching the episode and reviewing it, but today we're actually going to be talking about the episode itself and how recently A1 Pictures has been handling it, or more so how they've been handling over the course of about 5 to 6 months, almost 6 months. It's been going on for about 5 months. I uploaded my first ever review, which was the first episode of the series, of course, on April 8th of this year. And since then, not a lot of people have really, talked about it all that much. I see constant videos of people re-uploading scenes from certain episodes on YouTube, which is an entirely different topic that I actually want to talk about in a separate video. But today we're talking about Persona 5. And, I was noticing this by around, like, episode 4, I would say, which in episode 4 was, of course, the episode where we actually get the fight against Kamoshida. And I was noticing this for a while, the pacing and, the changes that they were doing, and how drastically different this series actually is compared to the OVA that they did, like, probably like a year ago, maybe even longer than that. And just, it's so crazy to think how I can easily compare this to the game and say that the game is way better than the anime. And part of me is really sad to really say that because A1 Pictures has created some really good anime, and they've been infamous for creating adaptations of anime from specific video games, most notoriously for Persona, the Persona series, and it's all just been really lackluster. It's just been, mediocre. It's all just been like okay, it's never, amazing, but it's never downright terrible to where you feel bad for watching it. Like, I don't feel bad for watching, new episodes on a weekly basis. I still continue watching it because part of me still finds the enjoyment factor of it, because there are certain parts and certain scenes of certain episodes that they do that I like how they did it. I like how they introduced this new scene that wasn't in the video game, but it's at the same time I find myself enjoying the experience of playing through the video game more than I do actually watching the anime. And it kind of says a lot because this series has so much talent backing it up. It has so much voice acting talent, and it has so much talent in terms of like the animation team, in terms of people who are doing the art style, in terms of who's doing the writing, and especially the music. The music of the series is so beyond amazing that I cannot give it any more praise than I have already given it since after completing the game for the very first time. The music in this game is absolutely fantastic, and I use it in almost all my videos. It's just that good, and I want people to hear it more. But part of me just wants to stop watching the series, because there are times where it's like I almost like miss out on like an entire week of actually even watching the episode, and I have to review like 2 episodes in 1 week because I just sheerly just didn't want to watch the episode that week for some reason, because I feel like this series could be so much better. It has so much talent behind it, and yet it's just falling behind. And I'm not really sure why that's the case. I'm not really sure why that's the case. Maybe because it's a more sped up and shortened version of the video game. Obviously, it kind of has to do that. Maybe I guess if you want to debate about it, we can. But the anime is significantly, like, at this point of where we're at, very much shorter than what it is in the video game. In the video game, I put over 100 hours into the game, and I finally beat it once I got to around like 95 to 100 hours or so. That's when I finally beat the game. By then, I had already invested in all my confidants and all of like the characters and their personalities, and going after the Reaper and the Metaverse and Mementos. I've already like finished the story, and I've interacted with all these characters, and the great thing about it is that it gives you the time to want to interact with the characters because of certain mechanics of how the game works. It gives you time to go out and do dungeons in the metaverse in some like person's palace, or even going in Mementos. But you also have that downtime of being in reality outside of Mementos, inside of the real world, where you can interact with various different characters, some who you didn't imagine you would interact with, as such as a politician, or you just interact with some of your friends like Ryuji, An, Makoto, and so on and so forth. With this series, you don't really get that at some points in the series. Like in the beginning with episode 2 and 3, we had an episode dedicated to Ryuji and his personality and like what his motivations for going after Kamoshida was. Next episode is the same thing for An, and then immediately after that, the next episode we get the fight with Kamoshida. I feel like it could have been, not say dragged out, but I felt like it could have been prolonged for maybe like another episode and a half, until we actually get to the fight with Kamoshida. Because I feel like by then we can interact with the characters more, learn about them, interact with them more, and then maybe we can care about them for whenever they finally beat Kamoshida, and An has her moment when she actually confronts Kamoshida like she never really could before in reality, but she's able to do that inside of the metaverse, inside of Kamoshida's palace. And that's such a good moment for her character inside the video game. But in the anime, you kind of question yourself, well, why is this such a thing? Is it because of what she had to endure with Kamoshida? Is that the reason why? Like, you don't really get to experience her character and really her full motivation for why she's doing what she's doing. Of course, you get some of the stuff that goes on with Shiho, her best friend, and stuff like that. But then we continue on, and then we meet Yusuke and like all his stuff, and it was so like sped up. It was so like shortened down to where it's like I really couldn't even really care all that much. Like we have like the beginning part with Yusuke kind of being a weirdo, but he's always a weirdo, and then you get the episode where he unlocks his persona, and that was really interesting, I guess, and made for a good thumbnail, I guess. But and then after that, you get the boss fight that I felt like should have been warranted if it had gone on for like another episode or so. And I feel like the main problem with the series is that it is kind of just like condensing all the plot points that happen in the video game, and it's just shortening it down to where they can go inside a palace in one episode, do a couple of stuff in there, do a couple of side activity stuff, and then in the same episode they go after the boss fight. I feel like that almost happened with Kanashiro. I swear that happened with Kanashiro. That's what it felt like to me. And that was the reason why in the past two episodes I have been saying that these two episodes are actually pretty decent, because instead of immediately feeling like they're going straight after the main boss, which is Sainiji Makoto's sister, they actually, go out of their way to do side character activity stuff in terms of confidants with Sojiro Sakura, which is, kind of the mentor to our main character, our main protagonist, but not really at the same time. He's kind of just like there to look after our main character Ren, right? But he doesn't really do much, and then we finally learn more about his character and his motivations for why he's looking after Futaba, and like Futaba's backstory with how she was passed around when she was younger to like family member to family member, and how when she got to her uncle, she was basically treated like she was trash and all that. And it's like I really enjoyed that, but why did we have to wait so far on later in the series to up until like episode 24 where we actually get moments like that? I feel like that didn't really need to be warranted. But at least in the episode, in terms of context, it makes sense, because inside of the episode, Sojiro finds the calling card that was given to her whenever she asked the Phantom Thieves to change her heart. And then obviously he confronted her and she kind of ran away. And then since then, whenever they would go in the palace and try to, progress on further, her mind was all over the place. Her feelings and her emotions were conflicting with how she actually is and how useful she actually is with the characters inside the palace. And in context, it makes sense, but I feel like it shouldn't have been waited for that. It shouldn't have been waited for that long for it to happen. As soon as we meet Futaba, I feel like it should have happened a lot sooner, right after Futaba has her change of heart. And I forget at what point you can actually get to like those scenes in the video game. Maybe it's actually a lot longer than I'm actually remembering it by. But I feel like because it is an anime and because it can do things differently from the video game, I feel like it should do that. But the problem with it again is that it feels so much like the video game. It feels like it's trying to do so much like the video game, where it tries to do this, that, and the other exactly like it, but it does it in a very much poor way. Like Mother's Basement, the guy who runs that channel, actually go watch his video on Persona 5 whenever it was in the early stages of the anime being out. I actually really recommend that you go watch it. It's his video that really encouraged me to make this video. The all-out attacks, they look and feel really, amazing to get inside of the video game. It's fun to watch. It does a lot of damage. It's really cool to watch it in the video game, and you feel rewarded for being able to do it inside the game. At points they do it in the anime, and it just feels like, why are they doing it? Why are they doing an all-out attack? It doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't have that oomph factor to it. I'm not sure how to explain it, but it doesn't feel as impactful like it could be. Probably because of some of the sound effects that they had with even with some of like the gunshots and like the punching and stuff like that. And I don't know. I'm kind of all over the place. I'm kind of running out of breath as well. I'm talking a lot. I'm talking pretty quickly as well. But at the same time, I feel like if I could forgive anything about this series, could be the combat. But even then, they don't even do the combat all too well. They don't do the combat all too well, because go watch the Daybreakers OVA for Persona 5 and pay attention to the combat and the OVA. It was really fun and enjoyable to watch, and it actually utilized a lot of the surrounding area that they were in inside of Mementos. In the boss fight, like the boss would take one of like the pipes out of the ceiling and he would use it as a weapon, against the Phantom Thieves. But that doesn't straight up happen at all inside of the fucking anime. It treats it like it's a goddamn fucking Pokemon battle, because all they do is spam their persona using, electricity like moves and stuff like that. And it's just like, why? That's the reason why I titled the most recent anime review the most exciting boss fight so far. Because they finally were doing something different by having the characters move around and using stuff other than their fucking persona. Especially, and even when they would use their persona, let me just get this straight. Even when they would use their persona, like Makoto would actually use her persona and utilize it like you'd think that you would do it, right? Because her persona is a literal fucking rideable motorcycle. She literally sits on top of her persona whenever she activates it, right? So do you think because of that, and because it is able to maneuver around, she would be able to utilize that a lot more, especially against Kanashiro, because that's when you access her as a character in the Phantom Thieves and inside the video game. But she doesn't utilize that whatsoever, and she finally did inside the most recent episode of Persona 5, and it was really enjoyable because of that. But other than that, every other episode just doesn't have exciting boss fights whatsoever. The story at times doesn't make sense, and it doesn't try to have anything make sense for the audience who's watching the series for the first time and hasn't played the video game. Everything's just all kind of happening all at once, and it almost seems like it's expecting you to have played the game and understand the story and the characters, so that way you can then enjoy it. And maybe that's the reason why I'm still currently watching this series as itself anyways, because I did play the game, because I do enjoy the characters, because I do enjoy specific parts of the game inside of the episodes, and maybe that's the reason why I keep watching it. Maybe that's the reason why most of us keep watching it, because we played the game and we enjoyed the game. We want to enjoy the anime, but the anime isn't doing such a good job of doing a proper adaptation to an amazing game that I can't give enough props for doing this, that, and the other. And I never experienced some of the stuff that they've done before in those games, even though they've done it in previous Persona games. I almost said Persona 5 games, but previous Persona titles. They did that, and it's amazing. And I can't recommend people enough to play Persona 5, the video game, on your PlayStation 4. Even on the Pro, it looks amazing. It's such an amazing game. But honestly, if I had to recommend Persona 5 the animation, I would say no. I would honestly say don't watch it. Play the game instead. And I would also recommend better anime to you because there's so much other better anime that you can watch that's currently out right now. But if you're sheerly just a fan and you want to watch it regardless, and if you're enjoying it anyways, then I honestly I can't fault you for that because I'm still enjoying certain parts of certain episodes, and I'm still enjoying it as well. I'm still watching it. I'm watching it on a week to week basis. I'm reviewing episodes. I can't fault you for liking it because I kind of like it too. I'm still enjoying watching it. Obviously, I'm making this video because I want to see the series get better, and I think they still can while they have the chance. And it almost feels like they're trying, but at the same time, it almost feels like they're not. Anyways, I guess this was kind of a rant for Persona 5, even though it's just kind of like whatever. It was kind of just like a whatever video about Persona 5. I just wanted to talk about my feelings of how the anime has currently been treated over the course of like the past 5 to 6 months. But regardless, that's pretty much everything that I kind of wanted to talk about. Regardless, if you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like. If you are new, subscribe for more videos just like this. I'll see you guys next one. Have a fantastic day. I'm out. Peace.
Drop that